We have heard a lot of interesting lectures, so I suppose you have a lot of questions prepared. So now is the time, so don't be shy. I think we can lead the discussion on.
I have a question for Hans, I think. I think you're more interested in not so much B-sides, but unsigned bands. And I thought what came over well from your presentation is this idea that what's less important is centre and periphery, but expanding the range of architecture we're looking at and ideas we're looking at. Are there practical limits to that? Are there problems? Can that keep being expanded? And do we need new forms of communication, or new ways of talking about architecture?
There's certainly a problem in communication, but for me, if you look at the percentage of the built environment which is included in discussions on architecture, it's fairly limited, I would say. And every opportunity, every occasion to expand this is really, really welcome. But I just feel it's unjust to concentrate on the same and repeat again. Of course, there's always value in the next discovery, which will lead to a new monograph on Le Corbusier. But since there are already so many of them, I think it's much more reasonable to look for other things. And so maybe you're right, it's not a B-side, it's the unsigned bands is maybe a better metaphor for what you're looking for.
Okay, any other questions?
Hello, my name is Novák. I have a question for Siiri and Indrek. That was the project, the building of university was your first project after school. And how did you manage that you survived? You don't have a gray hairs, but it established your office, or how you what you can see like a next step. It's just one thing that you built.
We have lots of grey hairs actually, if you look closer. But it wasn't our first building, and not even our first school building. We started quite early because we have really, in Estonia, this open competition system works very well, so that makes easy to start very early or practice. So we were very lucky, and we started almost after we finished school, more or less, like we maybe worked 2 years in some other offices, and then we started our practice with those competitions we won. But yeah, the profession is very hard, it's tough.
Yes.
Dobrý den, Barbara Antonová. Já mám jednu poznámku, jedno doplnění k Antonínu Novákovi, jednu otázku. Ta knížka Polská domek pro děti vyjde v češtině v květnu, takže první krok je dělaný. A chtěla jsem se zeptat, jestli máte nějakou konkrétnější představu ohledně spolupráce těch škol. Myslím si, že ta intervence na pedagogické fakulty nebo na pedagogické školy je naprosto úžasná, ale jestli máte nějakou konkrétnější představu, jak to udělat.
Můžu takhle? Jo. Nemám. Já vím, že jsou fragmentální nějaké pokusy o to. Vím, že pedagogická fakulta znám je, občas něco děláme dohromady. Nicméně tohle je docela složitější zadání, samozřejmě hodně široké a je nutno ho koordinovat a tak dále. No. Takže nemám, já jsem se snažil dát nějaké jenom návrhy, protože cítím tu potřebu. Jo. A psal jsem to dneska dopoledne celé, takže já se omlouvám, ale nemám.
Are there any questions in the audience? Yes, there's some.
Okay, this is a question for Mr. Architect Saunders. I would like to ask you, I understood that you told that you freshly after the graduation you moved to Norway and you started on your own, like you haven't visited some other atelier. Do you understand that? Yeah,
What's the first part of the question?
The question is why have you chosen this way, like straight to the Norway and straight to building your own, not to visiting another atelier to get maybe like more experience for realization and for this such a background.
Well, I didn't really choose it. I can be very honest. I moved to Norway with no money. I had $200, which is not. It won't last very long in Norway. I worked for an architect, a freelance architect, for my first 5 months there. There was 25 architects in that office. When projects came in, the senior architects were getting the best projects, and I didn't really get any projects. I was very ambitious, so I decided to go on my own. And at that time, I worked with a carpenter 1 week, and then I went looking for projects the next week. And I think the first year of my life, I didn't make any money. I made enough to eat, and it was a very expensive country to live in. And then I started building playgrounds with children, and I would design them. And because I knew carpentry, I built them. I did that for about my first 2 or 3 years in Norway. So I was in Norway about 3 years before I did that cabin. But after 3 years of not really doing architecture, I decided to have confidence in myself. I knew I could do good architecture, so we saved the money while we were teaching at the architecture school and built that. I wish, like there's days I run my office, I wish I worked in another office because I would have learned all the tricks. And I just came from giving a lecture in Norway about, they asked 3 well-known architects in Norway, they explained their success. But I didn't explain my success, I explained my 10 biggest mistakes that I've made. So I make mistakes all the time. So I kind of wished I had a few years in an office, but in my office, is a long story. We don't hire people that have worked in a bad office before. If we feel if they leave architecture school and work for a bad architect, they usually learn bad habits. So they're kind of ruined. So we usually only work with architects that have worked in a good office or they're right from school. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question for Todd. How many artists already stayed in Island of Fogo, in artist studios?
The studios we designed 6, they built 4, and the artists usually come for 1 month to 3 months at a time, and it's been open for about 4 years now. We've had one filmmaker that's presented at Cannes, at the film festival. We have quite well-known artists there. So, did I answer your question right? How many?
How many, or is it successful? Is it successful?
Yeah, Yeah, very, very successful. They usually stay there for about a month or 3, and then they have an exhibition in the art gallery in the hotel they designed. And the Kate Newby that was there from New Zealand, she went on to represent New Zealand in the Biennale there, and then some people are there now. They come there and actually prepare for exhibitions. So, and the artists are from around the world, I think all around the world, and I think there's been, if I guess, about 30 artists there already. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question for Antoni and Domicz. Mr. You have been talking about that your buildings are about 20 meters to 20 kilometers perimeter, and that was about 20 buildings. Am I true? And you are about 40. You have sun, and is it enough work to survive, to make enough money to be alive?
I don't complain. Yes, I think yes. I have no problem. I am a minimalist.
I have a question to our historian guests. A question which is not unfair. Did the fact that you have worked for a, let's say, Russian community in Narva influence your work? Because you are not Russians, you are Estonians.
Actually, first when I entered into this competition, we even didn't realize all those issues which came together with this work to us, or like what we got into.
Does the local community of Russians influence our proposal?
But later there was such a thing that suddenly we discovered that there was always like we and Peil and whatever was like talked or yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's say last 2 questions. There are any actually. Yes, there's.
Hello, my name is Martin, and I would like to ask Mr. Saunders, do you think that it's important for young architects to be able to work with materials? Because I've seen that you are able to build a house by yourself, by your own hands. So do you think it's important for young architects to?
I think it's absolutely important. For example, I'm not very good at construction details. I saw with Voss's drawings yesterday. It was amazing the amount of detail. And the way I learned to do detailing was to learn how to build. And you also saw in Kengo Kuma's lecture yesterday how much he works together with the students building. I would teach at Cornell now, and I've taught at the Bergen Architecture School and the Oulu School of Architecture in Finland. In both those schools I usually have design build courses. But it's not to learn construction per se, it's to learn how to get the feeling of a one-to-one project. And I think it's a great opportunity. And then when we did our first project, I think it would have been only now that I would have been getting good projects if I didn't have to build my project myself. Because I think you get a lot of credibility by building a project. I've seen it in 2 or 3 architecture firms in Norway. If they learn how to build young, get a building built, not just competitions and renderings showing stuff. Everyone shows this stuff. But if you show a built product and you're young, you have lots of energy now, you have lots of time, you know, it's the perfect time to do it. And, like when Hans was showing the map of that most of Western Europe had all these projects, then he said, I don't know what he said it was, but the West was very empty, but it came to my mind like the wild, wild West of America. It was the new frontier. And I think as a young architect, if you went out and built a few projects yourself, like it can be a great opportunity. Instead of working at an architecture firm right away when you come from school, maybe your first summer you build 1 or 2 projects with some friends, get it published, and not to get it published, but to actually learn who you are as a person, of what your own personal architecture you want to make. That's why we built the first project. It was almost like a giant business card. It became a giant business card for us because we didn't have to convince clients anymore. They came to us after that because they knew what we represented. So it's a great opportunity. And so if some of the teachers here would like to build stuff, you should really jump at the opportunity.
One more question.
I would like to ask Todd as well. You just said that you would, or you hiring students just after the school because they are not like destroyed by some bad habits, or that you hiring them from like good studios. So my question is like, I don't want you to say which studios you consider bad, but actually, what are the issues which you think that, or how you choose the wrong ones or the good ones? So what you don't want that are the bad habits that your future employees has got, and yeah, how do you choose that? Thank you.
It's a good question. It's a very, very interesting question. We get 200 applications a week from all over the world. And every month I sit down and I used to answer everyone because I felt very guilty because they were sending, I felt privileged that they wanted to work for me. But honestly, of those, say we get 800 to 1,000 applications a month, only 1 of 1,000 are good. It's the state of architecture schools in Europe now is I'm a bit disappointed, actually. But with that said, of those one, I've hired 3 Czech students before, and I think the work coming out of the Czech Republic is absolutely amazing as the students. So what we usually look for is not the typical technician or I look for a thinker. I look for somebody that's been thinking. So many applications are just replications of other buildings from other architects. So back to the question earlier, it was like, you have to find your own personality in architecture. And if I see something that I know it's very unique and it's that student's work, then it usually hits a chord. And before we hired the students, they were actually designing projects, but when we were a smaller office, they would just get a project and I'd talk to them, and it was a bit too much stress for them. So now the students actually, they mostly work on model building as an assistant to one of the senior architects in my office, or they work on plan drawings helping, or they work on renderings, and it's a much more relaxed for them, because I really stressed them out before, I think. And right now, we usually, if we hire students, we usually hire 2 students from the same area that they come to Norway, so they have a social life as well.
Well, can you just tell me what can be the bad habit? Like, what is for you the first habit which a student can bring? I mean, like from the previous studio, so what is the thing you wouldn't like to get? So, because this is...
That's another good question. A bad habit, it's not really a physical bad habit. Like, I don't like to talk a lot, because I like the workroom at work. I really, a friend told me a few years ago, because I had a German in my office, he was a pain in the ass, because it was he said you should hire people you want to hang out with. And actually, we started interviewing the people, the students on Skype before they come. I really like the personality, but that's more of a personal side of me. I really like the thinker. Like if somebody, it's a good quality if you're thinking on your own, and because in these small offices you have to really think on your feet, and you kind of see it in the portfolio and see what they've been doing before. So there's not really any fixed recipe, but an individual that's a bit experimental. I hired a girl last year, Ivana, who lives 20 kilometers away from here. She was very artistic and very experimental and just such a great person, and everybody loved her in the office. So there's skills and there's also personal qualities. So,
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And if you can make a good coffee.